शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वाम् अनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्ण प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः। प्रपन्नपारिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला। अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथासम्बोधनाबोधितं। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमलप्रध्वंसि नः श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुराः सुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। I offer my most prayerful salutations at the divine lotus feet of the Jagat Guru, Bhagavan Sri Krishna Paramatma, on this Saturday, the auspicious Margashira Saptami Tithi. We have gathered here to talk about principles of Hinduism through Bhagavad Gita. Of course, all the invocatory slokas I chanted are part of what is known as Gita Dhyana. For us, Bhagavad Gita is not just a book. Bhagavad Gita, as is often translated, is the song of God. Right? That is how it's translated. The word of God is equal to God Himself. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita for us is God. And therefore, we do not look at it as some inanimate object like a book. It is God Himself, the Word of God. And that's why we have what is known as Gita Dhyana. And it is said that if one were to read Gita, Bhagavad Gita, of course most commonly known as simply as Gita, but there are actually many Bhagavad Gitas. It's not just one Bhagavad Gita. There are a lot of Gita. There is a Ganesha Gita, there is a Gopika Gita, there is a Shiva Gita, and there are plenty of Gitas. The most popular of the Bhagavad Gitas is the Sri Krishna Paramatma's Bhagavad Gita that we all know and is known across the world, very well known. And it is part of the Mahabharata. So Bhagavad Gita is not as a separate text by itself, it's part of Mahabharata, which is written by Sri Sage Vedavyasa. So in the Mahabharata that has 18 parvas, Bhagavad Gita occurs in the 6th parva, the 6th part of Mahabharata. And sixth part is known, 6th parva is the Bhishma parva. So Bhagavad Gita occurs as part of the Bhishma parva of Mahabharata. Starts at the 25th chapter of 6th chapter, 25th section of the 6th chapter, goes up to 42nd chapter, meaning that Bhagavad Gita itself has 18 chapters. So Bhagavad Gita is the most holiest of the texts that is part of our rich heritage, and it has 700 slokas and talks about a huge spectrum of topics. So if somebody were to ask who is the author of Bhagavad Gita, Sage Vedavyasa is the author of Bhagavad Gita. What is the context of Bhagavad Gita? It is in the context of Mahabharata, in the Bhishma Parvam. Everybody knows the context probably. It is at the start of the Mahabharata war when Arjuna and is driven by Lord Krishna himself as the one who is driving the chariot. Partha Sarathi is how Lord Krishna is known in this scenario. You see, our gods and goddesses have several names, but they are all dependent on the context and the particular aspect of the divinity that we are invoking. So Lord Krishna in this context is referred to as Partha Sarathi because he was driving the chariot for Arjuna. And at the beginning of the war, when in the middle of the battlefield, you know the story, Arjuna gets despondent and says he doesn't seek to fight the war because whatever the kingdom that he is going to get as a consequence of winning the war is not desirable to him because all he sees around him are his own family, friends, students and others. So it is that in that context that Lord Krishna starts to speak to him, to inspire Arjuna, to propel him into performing an action that is expected of him at that time. So that is the context in which Bhagavad Gita has come about. But today's talk, so before we get into today's topic, I would like to request our sister Basumati Garu to sing a song as an invocation to that particular form of Lord Krishna who is Partha Sarathi. So she will tell us a little bit about the Kirtanam and also she will sing.
Good morning, everyone. A composition of Ramanathapuram Srinivasa Iyengar. He was also called Puchi Srinivasa Iyengar. He got the name Ramanathapuram because he became an Asthana Vidwan of Ramanathapuram district. Most of his compositions are in Telugu, even though he was living in Tamil Nadu's part. I believe that the clan of this Vaishnavite group migrated from East Godavari district or maybe West Godavari district towards South India, Tamil Nadu state. That's where the influence of Telugu still stayed with him. The word Puchi is a small bug in Tamil. What was the reason was that his singing would sometimes sound like a buzzing sound of little bumblebees and little bugs. So obviously that term stayed with him, and for many people he is referred to as Puchi. My guru, Srimati Jayalakshmi Garu, would sing a lot of these Puchi Srinivasa Iyengar's composition, and I never realized why. Most of them again in Telugu. Sugunamale Cheppukunti, Sundara Raghurama, and Parama Pavana Rama, Papa Vimochana. all these beautiful kritis. Later reading about him, I found out that her Paramaguru, Guru's Guru, Sri Ariyakudi Ramanujaya Iyengar, was a direct disciple of him, of Poochi Ramanathapuram Srinivasa Iyengar. A composition in Ragam Madhyamavati, a very auspicious raga. I'm very happy to start the program with this auspicious song. Parthasarathi nannu palimparada, Parthasarathi nannu palimparada, Shri Parthasarathi nannu palimparada, Shri Parthasarathi nannu palimparada, Shri Parthasarathi nannu palimparada. సార్థకమైన నీ పదముల సార్థకమైన నీ పదముల సంతతము మొరబేటిన, సార్థకమైన నీ పదముల సంతతము మొరబేటిన, సార్థకమైన నీ పదముల సంతతము మొరబేటిన, పార్థసారథి నందు పాలింపరాదా, శ్రీ పార్థసారథి. सर्वधर्म परिपालक, सर्वधर्म परिपालक, सर्वधर्म परिपालक, सर्वधर्म परिपालक, सर्वधर्म परिपालक, सर्वलोक शरण्या, सर्वधर्म परिपालक, सर्वलोक शरण्या, सर्वेषुडौ श्रीनिवास, सर्वेषुडौ श्रीनिवास, सर्वेषुडौ श्रीनिवास, सर्वरोगनिवारण, सर्वेषुडौ श्रीनिवास, सर्वरोगनिवारण, पार्थसारथि नंदु पालिंपरादा, श्री पार्थसारथि नंदु पालिंपरादा.
Thank you very much, sister, for doing this. The Parthasarathi picture, as in a diagram of the photograph of that, an artistic impression of that, most of us would have seen, and in fact, it is part of the most homes in India, those who are Hindus. Lord Krishna standing and Arjuna on the floor, with the namaskaram, listening to Lord Krishna, and there is a chariot in the background. That is the Parthasarathi. We have it right here. So, it's the divine which has chosen to clear the confusion in the mind of human. That's the setting. Today's topic is principles of Hinduism through Bhagavad Gita. So today's topic is not about Bhagavad Gita itself. It's not about Bhagavad Gita. It is about principles of Hinduism. We are using as a foundation to get an understanding of what are the core principles of Hinduism. If we want to understand that, we could pick numerous references to discover that. And for today's discussion, it is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is referred to as a Kalpataru. Kalpataru means the wish-fulfilling tree that is supposed to be part of the Swargam, heaven. So which means what? Kalpataru can give whatever you ask. Right? We go to the wish-fulfilling tree is supposed to be that you go to that tree and that tree you ask for mangoes, you get mangoes. You ask for apples, you get apples. You ask for wealth, you get wealth. You ask for whatever you ask for, it's supposed to give you. That's the very property of a Kalpataru. Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be a Kalpataru. So you ask and you get whatever you seek. So today we are seeking a certain clarity on what are the core principles of Hinduism, keeping this Kalpataru in front of us. Question will arise, well, we are all, most of us here, I think almost all of us here are born Hindus. So when somebody asks us, so I'm going to give a little bit of a context as to why is the need for us to be talking about these principles of Hinduism. We are all born Hindus. So if somebody asks me, who are you? I can describe that question to any of us. We can respond in numerous ways. Oh, my name is such and such. Oh, I'm a professor of this. Or, okay, I'm a husband of this person, or I'm a father of this person, I'm a friend of this person. We can describe in numerous ways. But I wasn't born a professor, right? That's not my basic fundamental identity. Well, I'm a human as a fundamental identity, as a very basic. But what am I? I'm not a professor since my birth. I'm not husband since my birth. I'm not friend for somebody since my birth. So what am I? What is my identity? If you ask, that one identity that came to all of us with our birth, from our birth, is that we are born to Hindu parents, therefore we are born a Hindu. In India, any of us who have filled a birth certificate would have written in that case Hindu. I'm 100% sure we would have written that. So what is our identity? We are a Hindu, right? We are many things, but at the very basic level, we are a Hindu. So if you are a Hindu, and somebody who is not a born Hindu were to ask us, what are the core principles of your religion? Right? Many times we don't, we get different answers depending on who you are asking. Right? You are a Hindu, so what makes you a Hindu? So, or somebody can ask a question like, what is your religion based on? Like as most world religions are based on a book. So if you want to ask what are the foundations of Islam, you know what that is based on. There is one book that is at the core of Islam. Similarly, if you ask a Christian what is the book on which your religion is founded, you get a very definitive, very clear answer. And what makes you a Christian? Well, if I believe in Christ, or if I follow the teachings of Christ, then I am a Christian. The moment I say, no, I don't think that, I don't believe in Christ, say, as the Son of God or whatever, suppose I say that, then nobody will call me a Christian. I may have been born to Christian parents, but if I am not a believer of Christ, then I am not going to be calling even myself a Christian. I hope I am making sense. So many Buddhism, for example, if you ask about Buddha, somebody who is a Buddhist, they will say, well, Buddha is my prophet, and they will have Dharmapada as their religious text on which their religion is based. You ask the same question to a Hindu, what is the book on which your religion is based on? Somebody will say Vedas, other person will say Ramayana, somebody else will say Bhagavad Gita. And actually most people in the world think that Bhagavad Gita is the religious text for Hindus, and that's the text on which Hinduism is based. Nothing could be far from truth. If that is so, then each one of us should be saying, yes, Bhagavad Gita is the text on which my religion is based on, but no, let's take a sample and ask each one, what do you think is your religious text? Somebody will say Ramayana, and somebody else will say Vedas, somebody else say Upanishad, somebody will say Bhagavad Gita. So you don't get the same answer in response when you ask something like that. And even if let us say we agree, how many of the Hindus will know anything from these sources? Say somebody says Ramayana is my religious text. Okay, quote something from Ramayana. How many Hindus will be able to do that? You say Bhagavad Gita is your religious text. Okay, quote something from Bhagavad Gita. How many people can do that? So then why are you a Hindu if you cannot remember one sloka from Bhagavad Gita or one sloka from Ramayana, nothing from your Vedas? Forget Vedas, they are too far away. Right? So what makes you a Hindu? You don't have a common book. Even if you have some common book, you don't know. Not everybody knows, at least. Right? These are simple things. Because we are living in a society which is predominantly non-Hindu society. Right? So, and there are people who are curious to know, what are you? When you say you are Hindu. And then we need to have some clear-cut answers. And today's discussion is an effort to get that kind of clarity. I am 100% sure that everyone sitting here actually has the answers to all these things. I am not under any illusion thinking that I am the only one who has this clarity. I am sure everybody here knows, but we are sharing thoughts. But I am going to present some thoughts from my side based on whatever my understanding of some message that Bhagavad Gita has given. Right? As I speak, because you are all also familiar with these principles. You are probably familiar with many other principles. And for today's discussion, I am going to simply bring about 3 or 4 core principles, which I think are at the core of Hinduism. If we call ourselves a Hindu, then this is what makes us a Hindu. For my limited understanding, is what I am going to share. And because you are all much more knowledgeable, you will have your own versions of these things. Right? So as I speak, you will probably come up with other thoughts. Oh, why is he saying this? Maybe it should be that way. What about that? You will think of other things. Those thoughts will occur to you as I am going to share my thoughts. My request, normally when I teach at Florida Tech in the classroom, I don't teach this, I teach something else, differential equations. I typically say to students in my class, you can interrupt me anytime, stop me in the middle of the sentence, it's okay, you can ask me any question. That's my way of saying things in the classroom. But here I am going to request you, as I speak, I am 100% sure you will have several questions and several thoughts. Oh, why is he saying that? What about this? What about that? You will get such thoughts. My request, please don't ask those questions immediately, because it breaks the flow of the discussion, and we also do not have unlimited time. Right? In a classroom, if I don't finish something today, I can go tomorrow and continue the discussion, but today is the only time we have. So in the limited time, whatever are my thoughts, I will share. My request is, if you have any questions, any comments, criticisms, please by all means make a note of those. Everybody has phones, so you can definitely write the questions and share them with me. Critique what I am saying, I will be more than happy. Okay? And maybe if there is enough interest and there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, I am sure our brother Vasu will arrange a second satsang as a follow-up to this satsang to answer the questions. Right? So that is my request. So, that we understand. So there is a lot of variance when it comes to somebody says, what is the book on which your religion is based on? We don't have an answer simply because our religion is not based on book. It is not based on book. So we should be able to say, what is the religious text on which your religion is based on? Our straightforward answer should be, well, our religion is not based on any one particular book, period. Then what is it based on? It is based on a collection of truths a collection of truths that were discovered as a consequence of lifetime of penances that have gone into by numerous sages, not one or two. That's why we wouldn't even have a prophet. So we couldn't call, oh, here is my prophet. No, because there are countless number of sages of the Vedic age who have dedicated their life to the pursuit of discovering this, to the pursuit of discovery of truth. Why are we on this earth? What is the purpose of human life? What is really going on in this existence of mine on this earth? Those were the fundamental questions that the sages have asked, and they didn't stop by asking. They delved into it, they meditated, they performed lot of austerities, and they discovered the truths and they shared the truths. So what is our religion based on? It is based on all those collection of truths that were discovered by serious spiritual scientists, I would call them, and said, okay, this is what I have discovered. And if it is that somebody discovers something once and then it is never repeatable, no scientist here will accept such a thing, right? We all think that science should be a repeatable thing, right? It's an experiment. If I am able to, say anybody, Einstein or any scientist for that matter, there are many in this audience, you say you discovered something in your lab, well, you better be able to confirm that if I were to repeat the same thing under the same set of conditions, the same results will be produced. That is the proof that what you discovered is the truth, or at least a partial truth up to that level of understanding, right? So that is the same with these so-called spiritual truths that were discovered by the saints and sages of Hinduism. They said, this is the truth I discovered by following this type of a path, and should we choose to do the same thing, that same truth will be discovered by anybody who tries it. And therefore it is a truth. Of course, there are conditions for any experiment, right? You have to follow the conditions, maintain the conditions in order to realize the same truth. So what is our religion founded on? For sure it is not founded on any single book. It is founded on those collection of truths about the universe, about our lives, about our existence. What is the purpose? These are the most important questions an individual can ask, and all these questions have been answered and debated and discussed and reproduced. That even to date we have people, noble spiritual people, who are able to repeat the results that have been proclaimed as the truths of the ancient sages. Today we are still talking about Srimad Bhagavad Gita, because whatever has been said in Bhagavad Gita is a repeatable truth. Well, at the age, when was this? Just for perspective's sake, Bhagavad Gita was written by sage Vedavyasa during the Mahabharata, after the Mahabharata. And we know exactly when Mahabharata what happened, we know exactly when it ended, so it is to the day we know. So it is, for our purposes, I will say it is at least 5,126 years. That's how long back this knowledge was written. And today we are talking about it because this is a repeatable truth. Okay? So this is one such collection of truths that is available to us, and through this we are trying to find out who is our prophet. Ask this question. Again, you will not get a definitive answer. Is Lord Rama our prophet? Is Lord Krishna our prophet? Is Lord Shiva our prophet? Or is he prophet at all? Are any of these prophets? So who are our prophets? We don't have any prophets. We don't have any one chosen by God, that this alone is my messenger. No, we don't have. So we shouldn't have a prophet saying, when somebody asks, who is your prophet? No, we don't have one single prophet. We have a huge collection of sages, saints, and so on. So just getting clarity on that part, that we do not base on a book. We do not have one single prophet, and faith in that one single prophet is not a prerequisite in order for any one of us to be called a Hindu. Is belief in God a prerequisite? Can an atheist be a Hindu? Of course. So even faith in God is not a requirement. So you see the difficulty with this religion. Right? So, no prophets. So what are the core principles? So that is settled. No prophets, no book. Then what are the core principles that make you a Hindu? If we ask that question, then we are now looking at Srimad Bhagavad Gita and saying, okay, what did Lord Krishna say about this? As to the core principles of Hinduism. And I know that I'm trying to simplify things, and for the purposes of our lives in this country, where we are away from India, when our children and our grandchildren will be asking these questions, they'll come back home and say, oh, it seems so much more easier to follow that religion because they have one clear-cut book, they have one clear-cut prophet. I just do that and it's so much simpler. And they come home and they see a huge array of pictures of gods with all kinds of stories, and they get confused. And they think, why is this so complicated? I don't want this religion, is what we are going to hear from our children sooner or later, unless we are prepared to give them clear answers. And therefore, one of the reasons why we are having this discussion today is to at least identify what are those core principles. First, again according to my humble opinion, is that we don't need a proof to say that there is a tree there, or there is somebody sitting here, or any of these things that we can experience with our senses. We do not need a proof of their existence. Do I need to convince you that there is a mic in front of me? No. I'll say it and you'll say, of course, we can all see it. So what is that needs a confirmation? That which is not part of our common experience is what needs an assertion. So Lord Krishna, as a first lesson to Arjuna, in response to Arjuna's despondency, who is refusing to fight, starts with this in chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I made a lot of references. I don't know if I will go through them or how many of them I will go through, because my intent is not to transfer some information, but it is to transfer share my understanding of these things. Information I will probably refer to these. Okay. In the second chapter, Lord Krishna is responding to somebody who said, I don't want to fight. I don't need this kingdom. Nakankshe vijayam Krishna, nacharajyam sukhanicha. Kim no rajyena govinda, kim bhogayat jivitena va, is what Arjuna says to Lord Krishna. I don't want this kingdom. Nakankshe vijayam Krishna. I don't need to win this battle. What am I going to do with this? Is what to such a person who is overcome with despondency, Lord Krishna is responding by saying, I will read. Okay? Lord Krishna is responding, and this is not the first sloka, but he says in second chapter, as soon as Bhagavan Krishna starts talking. Incidentally, the chapters in Bhagavad Gita are called with the suffix yoga. So the first chapter is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So even Arjuna's despondency, Arjuna's weeping and not wanting to fight becomes a yoga. So Vishadam, which is sorrow, becomes a yoga. Vishada Yoga. Why is that a yoga? We have to ask, but that's not the topic of today. As I told you, today's topic is not Bhagavad Gita. Today's topic is Hindu principles. So we will not get into those. But each chapter is called a yoga. Second chapter is called Sankhya Yoga. So in the Sankhya Yoga, Lord Krishna starts by asserting the existence of an entity that is permanent. That is permanent. So he says, Avinashitu tadvidhi ena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya nakaschit kartum arhati. He says, know that there is an imperishable entity that permeates all around us. So he is asserting the existence of an entity that permeates the entire universe, which is also an Upanishadic truth. Isavasya Upanishad says in the first sloka, Isavasya midam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena bhunjita magrudah kasya siddhanam. Keyword here, Isavasya midam sarvam. This entire universe is permeated by Ishvara. That is what Upanishadic truth. What is Lord Krishna saying? Know that ena sarva midam tatam, which is exactly the same thing as the Upanishadic language. This everything that you see around us is permeated and pervaded by an entity. That nomenclature could be different. Upanishadic could be saying Ishana, Ishanaha. Here he is not yet giving a name. He is saying, know that everything is permeated by a permanent, an eternal entity. So he is asserting the existence of an entity like that. That is all pervading. Then he says, what type of an entity is that? I am not obviously going in that order or anything. I am going to pick wherever these references are there. So he says, little later, Achedyoyam, Adahyoyam, Akledyoyam, Asosyeyam, Nityaha, Sarvagataha, Sthanuhu, Achaloyam, Sanatana. These are the description of this entity that he talks about. Achedyoyam, it cannot be slashed into pieces. Indivisible. Achedyoyam. This entity that permeates this entire universe is indivisible. You cannot partition it. This is what Lord Krishna is saying. And then what? It cannot be burned. It cannot be burnt by fire. Then he says it cannot be wetted. It is all pervasive. It is stable, sthanuhu. It cannot move. Why? Because if it is everywhere, where can it move? In order for it to move, there has to be a space where it is not there. Correct? I can move this mic because there is no mic here, but if there is an entity that permeates the entire universe, where is it going to move? Therefore, it is called Sthanuhu, immovable entity. And interestingly, one of the names of Lord Shiva is Sthanuhu. One of the names of Lord Shiva is Sthanuhu. So here, Lord Krishna is describing this all-permeating entity to be Sthanuhu. It cannot be moved because it is everywhere. If there is one religion that will stand the test of logic, that will stand any questioning, is our religion. That is what we have inherited. Right? So he is saying this in the little later, and then he goes on to describe this. So, much later, he says that let me see. Yeah. This entity that is there, this entity that is there, that which cannot be achedyoyam, yaschenam manyate hatam, bhavtauna vijanitam nayam hantina hanyate. It cannot be killed because this Arjuna is confused and thinking that he is going to kill all these people. So he is saying, no, there is an entity that is there. He says, najayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha ajo nityaha. It doesn't have birth. Ajo, ajaha, doesn't have birth. Nityaha, eternal. Shashvataha, permanent. Puranaha, it's not something, it's not anything new. Then he says, na hanyate, na hanyamane sarire. Okay? So he says all these nainam chindanti sastran. Nainam dahati pavakaha, nachainam kedayantyapo, nasoshayati maruta. So you cannot, wind cannot blow it, fire cannot burn it, and this kind of entity he describes. That entity he calls at several places as Atman. Atma. That entity is called Atma, is the name. Atma, if you again get into the description of that word, it simply means that which has permeated. Translation. Paramatma, ultimate, that there is nothing beyond that Atma. And the same thing can also be called as Bhagavan. The same thing, remember I said Sthanuhu is a name for Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva we call it Lord Shiva. So this is one of the biggest confusions of Hinduism is how many gods do we have? So our children are confused when we say we have many gods. It's easy to deal with one god. When you have multiple gods, then immediately we start asking which of them is superior, because we have to rank. Once we understand that there is only one entity that is all permeating, that is called Atma, that same entity can be called by different names. That is what Veda says. What does it say? Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sa Hari, Soksharaha, Paramasvarat. So whatever that entity that Lord Krishna is talking about here, Sa Brahma, that one is called Brahman, not the Chaturmukha Brahma, the four-headed Brahma, the creator Brahma, but it's called Brahman. It's called Atma or Paramatma, Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, the same entity is called Shiva. Sa Harihi, that same entity is called Hari. The same entity is called all these different names. So how many gods do Hindus have? Our children will ask, why do we have so many gods? The answer, there is only one God, there is only one entity, which is what we will call. So for Hindus, is it monotheistic or polytheistic? Well, it is a monotheistic religion. That is what our Vedas have said. That is what Bhagavad Gita is saying. Okay? There is only one entity. If it is all permeating, then there cannot be second thing. Call it by whatever name. Call it by whatever name. So that is why we have different names for the same entity, each one highlighting a particular property of that entity. So when you say Vishnu, call it Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sa Harihi, so Aksharaha, Paramasvara, the ultimate. So call it Vishnu if you like it. But what are you referring to? Vishnu means that one which is all pervading is Vishnu. Okay. Shiva, well, all auspiciousness is Shivam. So of course that entity that permeates the entire universe is auspicious. It can only confer all great good things. So that is Shiva. So like that, if you get into the meaning of the names of these gods, you will know that it's all referring to really that one entity that is permeating. How you choose, we as individuals choose to worship it is a different. Right? So you can call by whatever name. That's okay. You realize it in different ways. That's okay. But there is no restriction that it has to be only this particular. Right? So this one entity, that is what we call as God. The problem is with the language. The moment we say God, and I usually talk about these things to my Stotra class students, we use the English word God. And then the other religions also use the word God. So is that the same sense in which we are calling somebody as God? Then we have a problem. Let me explain this. When somebody says, somebody meaning who is not a Hindu says, God. That God, there is a heaven, and that God exists in that heaven. Nobody has seen that God. That God has sent his representative to earth to tell about that so-called God. And then everybody is supposed to do a certain thing in order to please that God. If you don't do that, some consequences will follow. This is typically what is the understanding of the word God in most religions. Is it the same sense that we use the word God when we say Shiva is God, Lord Shiva is a God, or Lord Vishnu is a God, or Mother Parvati, Shakti is God? Is that the same spirit in that sense in which we use this word? My understanding is no. And all trouble arises because of the use of the word. Because somebody else is using that word God to mean a certain thing. We are also using, unfortunately, because we have to converse in English, same word. And the problem is in linking those ideas which are not same. So then question will come, what is your concept of God, sir? Please tell us. So the Sanskrit word for God is Deva. And I say this all the time to our Stotra class children. Deva. Div is the root word, if you go back to it. Div, diya, you have heard diya in Hindi, you have heard. What is that? That is an effulgence, light. So div is to have light. Deva is simply an effulgent being. Do we know of one effulgent being all around us? Is there an effulgent being that we are all familiar? Sun, of course. So is there a problem if I call the sun as the sun god and that is God for me? Of course. He fits the definition of Deva. How many Devas are there in this universe? Now tell me. How many self-effulgent entities are there in the sky? Our astronomer here. Huh? Millions. Millions of stars. Every star is a self-effulgent entity. So how many Devas are there? So why should I have a problem? When somebody says, well, I have 33 crore gods. Any problem? No. It's a different matter. I don't have to sit and worship all 33 crores. Then it's a difficult thing. Right? But nobody is asking us. So you see the problem with the terminology. So we need to be clear. When we are talking about Devas, we are not using the same word as that, in the same sense as somebody else is using the word God. So there are many Devas for us, and we don't have a problem with that. And there is one Mahadeva. Who is this Mahadeva? We know there is somebody who is called Mahadeva. Shiva. So that Shiva is called Mahadeva. Well, of course. That one all-permeating entity that Krishna calls as Atman or Brahman can also be called as Shiva, can also be called as Vishnu, can also be called as Shakti, can also be called it by whatever. There is only one Mahadeva. So, how many gods do we have? We have one. But it doesn't stop there. This God is our God. I use the word God because otherwise it will become confusion every time, right? But you now understand in what sense I am using this word. Atman, that all-pervading entity that Lord Krishna is talking about in Bhagavad Gita, is the Mahadeva, is the Paramatman, is the Brahman or Parabrahman. Use different words, but there is only one. What type of, so I will refer to it hereafter as God, okay, but in our sense of it. So this God, what is it, at least in property, the same God as the others God? The others God is sitting there having no connection whatsoever with what is going on in this world. He is waiting for people to do whatever they want to do, and ultimately there is a judgment today and then there will be a judgment. Or he is waiting and hoping that these people who are his followers will somehow propagate this religion and will convert as many people as possible so that the souls can be reaped and so that God will be pleased. Is that what? That disconnected with his creation, that kind of God? Or what kind of God is this? So then he says this indivisible entity. I won't go into too much of that philosophical description of that. Core principle of Hinduism, number one, I am stating. There is an all-permeating, indestructible, all-powerful entity that we will refer to as God. That we will refer to as God, or call it by whatever. What is principle number one? Assertion that there is God is the core principle. Why does somebody need to assert it? Because you and I cannot see it with our eyes. Therefore, somebody who is super beyond that, all our experience, has to state. Someone like Lord Krishna has to assert, yes, there is God. How do I know? Well, Lord Krishna is said. And he said, I am that. So that is where the interesting thing happens. So this God of ours, this all-pervading entity, he describes himself in his own words. And he says, Bijam mam sarva bhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham. Says, I am the God which is all-permeating. Krishna is referring to himself, but it is not about that particular form that Lord Krishna as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. And that brings us to the next aspect of this God, existence of God. But we'll come to that in a minute. He says, Bijam mam sarva bhutanam, I am present in every being. So he is not sitting in some faraway heaven. He is not sitting in some separate Vaikuntha, or he is not sitting in some other Kailasa or Manidvipa. That does not mean those things don't exist. They will, but it's not limited to those lokas alone. So what is he saying? Bijam mam sarva bhutanam, I am part and parcel of every being, is what is our God. So to a Hindu, and I am pretty sure everybody here has this understanding, you ask and you make a statement like this, that God is in everyone. Have you heard that? God, where is it coming from? Is that what others are telling? No, that's what our religion is saying. Bijam mam sarva bhutana. I am there in each and every part of each and every being, is what Lord Krishna is saying. As in, not as one form and one name, but Paramatma. So he is present in everyone. Bijam mam sarva bhutana, he is saying that. And buddhir buddhimatam asmi. If you think somebody is a highly intellectual person, somebody is very smart, very intelligent, we have many in this audience, doctors, professors, and that not necessarily affiliated to a profession, anybody smart, right? Buddhir buddhimatam asmi says, I am the intellect in these so-called intellectuals. So how is he manifesting in you? As your intellect. So that God that exists manifests in different ways. Just as there is electricity in all these wires, but it will manifest as the light in that bulb, it will manifest as magnifying my voice through this mic. So electricity as a phenomenon exists all over in these wires, but it will manifest in that light, it will manifest here, it will manifest in that fan. In the same fashion, that same entity can manifest in you as your intellect. When I realize that the intellect or the intelligence that I am possessing is verily an expression of God, our attitude to what we can do with our intellect will change. The way we will look at our life will change. We are not talking about ordinary things. Bhagavad Gita talks about some of the phenomenal things. So he says here, Bijam mam sarva bhutana buddhir buddhimatam asmi. You think you are an intellectual? I am the intellect. Tejasvinamaham. I am also the effulgence that exists in all the eyes. Anybody who is alive in their eyes, you will see a spark. I am that spark, he says. So this divinity that we are talking of is not sitting in some far off place. It is present in each and every one of us. So we are not talking about distant God, because somebody can say, please don't bother me with all these philosophical things, I am not interested, I have many more things to do, I want to do my research, or I want to go practice, I want to make some money. Because why I am not interested in God? You better be interested in God, because He is intimately connected with you. You cannot exist without Him. Therefore you better be interested, because it is about you, is what our Shastras tell us. Okay? So he says that. And then, you see, our next comes to our important thing. Then he says, of course in continuation of the same theme, he says, Ahamatma Gudakesha Sarva Bhutashaya Sthitaha, present in every one of the beings. He repeats, Aham Adischa Madhyancha Bhutana Mantayevacha. So this is another, each of these will require long explanation, but I am just quickly quoting these things. So he says that I am the self-resident in the inner sense of all beings. I am also the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. That means much before we came into who we think we are, He was there with us. While we are here, He is with us. When we are gone with His name and form, He will be with us. Bhutanam adincha madhyancha antamevacha. Even after you think this is gone, you are done? No. God is somebody who will be with you all the time. Before birth, during life, after life. Will be. So should you know about what kind of God you are dealing with? You better. Right? So he says, and then what kind of God? And he goes on. He says, he's not separate, sitting somewhere. And these are very famous shlokas from Bhagavad Gita. He says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha dushkutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. This is a unique concept for Hinduism. This God who is there, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyudhanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham, he says. This God is not sitting somewhere, we agreed. He is present everywhere, we agreed. He is present in each one of the beings, we agreed. Is that it? No. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. There is a certain order, cosmic order in this universe that has been codified as the Hindu dharma. A code of conduct for Hindus. That is what is called Hindu dharma. Some of it is part and parcel of our lives, right? Which is also referred to as Sanatana Dharma. Okay? So this dharma goes through cycles. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. It goes through cycles of extreme adherence to less adherence to almost negligible adherence, and then it goes up. Cycles. Dharmasya glanihi. Glani means decline. How does dharma decline? Dharma doesn't decline. Practice of dharma declines because we lack faith in that dharma. We do not understand and it's not convenient. And the list of dharmas is huge. And which is what we have been bombarded with since our childhoods in our country. So much that we get fed up and say, don't tell me all these things, I am bored. But we have so many dharmas. Okay? So whenever there is that glani of the dharma, this God of ours says, I manifest myself. So he's not always formless, he's not always just omnipresent kind of thing. He can also manifest himself. Tadatmanam srujamyaham, I manifest myself, is what he says. No other religion has this concept. We have that unique concept of avatar. Paritranaya sadhunam, in order to protect the good ones, those who are trying to follow dharma. Vinasaya cha dushkutam, those who are trying to hit at the roots of that dharma, I am going to take care of them. And in order to do that, I manifest myself. Which means this formless name, no one prescribed name entity that we agreed to call as God, can incarnate, can take a form, can take a name. And that is a unique concept to Hindus. God can incarnate. He is not a mute spectator of things that are going on in this world. So he can manifest and try to fix things, put things back on course. And the Lord Krishna is one such manifestation. Who else is there? Lord Rama is one such manifestation. Of course, Lord Narasimha is one such manifestation. We know all the Dashavataras. It's not just 10, and not most popular. Bhagavatam talks about 24 such manifestations. And then you go to some other sources, it will talk about countless number of manifestations. Vishnornukam Viryan is a Vishnu Suktam in Vedas. And it talks about countless number of manifestations. Yes, because the timeline is infinite. That is a separate story about the time itself. So yes, he manifests. Every time there is a need, he will manifest. Avatar is a unique concept to us. So how many gods do we have? Well, there is one. But that one entity that is all permeating, all permanent, etc., can once come as Lord Krishna, can come as Lord Rama, can come as Narasimha, can come as Vamana and something else, and Shiva and all these things. How many gods? Multiple manifestations for the benefit of the humanity. So somebody likes Lord Shiva, they will worship Lord Shiva and Shiva Bhakta. Somebody likes Lord Rama, so becomes Lord Rama Bhakta. And there are numerous people who did that. They dedicated their life to Lord Rama and have sanctified their lives, and so on. Right? So avatars are there. So I'll just share quickly a small thing that actually happened in our Stotra class. Okay? So I was telling our children that God doesn't have birth or death. Okay? And this can cause confusion in children's mind, you see, because they cannot comprehend. The other day I was talking something and one of the child says, what is death? Because they don't know. How do I explain it to a 5-year-old boy? Right? That's the question somebody asked. So when I say something like God has no birth, no death, we think we understand, but that's a difficult thing to understand that. Our mind can only comprehend that which has a beginning and that which has an end. You cannot understand, our mind cannot understand that which doesn't have a beginning, doesn't have an end. Because we will have fun discussions, right? What was the first person doing? And how did that first person come into existence and things like that. That's our mind's play, because it has to have a beginning and then it has to have an end. That's our mind's thing. So I said that. They are very attentive in this Gotra class. So they heard. Several classes later, and I think we had a discussion about timeline. We had very interesting discussions. And I said, when did Kali Yuga start? What is the beginning of Kali Yuga? So obviously they don't know. So I had to explain. So I said, the Kali Yuga started with the demise of Lord Krishna, with the death of Lord Krishna. The moment I said, somebody caught me. You said God doesn't die and Lord Krishna is a God, and now you are telling me that Kali Yuga started because at the start of Krishna's death. The moment I said, they caught me. I was very pleased. The interesting thing with our religion is that you can ask any question. Nobody will say, hey, keep quiet, you cannot ask such questions. You can ask any question, you can challenge anything. You only need to have what? The patience to listen to the answers. So then I had to tell them, look, there is one God, there are certain God's names that you will never hear that this person died. Lord Vishnu, you will never hear that Vishnu died. Search all the Puranas you want. Lord Shiva, you will never hear that Shiva died. Correct? Adi Shakti or Jagannatha, Devi, you will never hear that she died. What you will hear? Krishna died. Rama died. Yes, of course. Why? Because Rama was born, therefore Rama will die. Krishna was born, so Krishna will die. That name and that form have come and gone, but the entity that we call as God, the Vishnu Tattva, the universal, all-pervading entity, has no death. The Shiva Tattva, that is the principle of auspiciousness, everything that is auspicious in this universe will never die. Will be there. Adi Parashakti, the energy, embodiment of all energy, cosmic energy. We talked about it once, Shakti Vilasam. There is no death. And to which scientist do I have to give a long argument to say energy cannot be created or destroyed? Do you need a proof? Sure, there is no birth or no death for Mother Goddess, Shakti. Logical? Scientific? Of course. Krishna died. So I had to explain to them, Krishna was a manifestation of that God which never has any death or birth. He just comes, visible to our physical eyes, and then goes away once it is over. The purpose is achieved. To my joy, the children understood that. And they had no problem with that. So that's what Lord Krishna is saying. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. I will come as many times as needed, not 10 times. Right? So that is unique principle of Hinduism, that there will be avatars, numerous times, who will come and go, who will achieve certain purposes. And what is the purpose? Dharma samsthapanarthaya, establish the dharma. Re-establishment of dharma is the purpose of these avatars. Killing Ravana is just one of the acts that Lord Rama performed. If you read Ramayana, you will know how he conducted himself as an exemplary of human. So he is establishing dharma through his practice, through the way he lived, and so on. So we dwelt enough on this topic of existence of God, all pervading, single entity, not multiple, but that single entity can manifest in different times and different timelines and different spaces and so on. Any number of them can go, no problem. Principle 1. Immediately when he says tadatmanam sujamyam, I keep coming back, comes also the notion, second notion of, it's not just that Lord, that Paramatma, Parabrahma is the one who reincarnates. Because Arjuna was worried that he is going to kill and he is going to die and all that. So he says, you are also coming back more than once. So my second core principle of Hinduism is the concept of reincarnation. To my knowledge, no other religion has this. For most other people, they are here once, do whatever. If you believe in certain somebody, your entry to heaven is guaranteed and you are there forever in the heaven. Do whatever, as long as you convert everybody by hook or crook, that God is pleased, you go back to heaven, and that heaven is even more interesting heaven, where there are rivers of wine flowing and other things you are familiar. Is that, compare that to the notion that we are talking about. We have to be the proudest people on earth because we have inherited such a great religion. So here is telling Lord Krishna, not just me, you are also coming back as many times as I come back. So what is the concept? Reincarnation. So he says, Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya, navani grunhati naroparani, tatha sarirani vihaya jirnan, anyani samyati navani dehe. I'm coming back. Really? Is what Arjuna is asking, and he says, what's so surprising about it? As we will change the shirt that gets, once I wear it tomorrow or as soon as I go back home, I'm going to discard this shirt, I'm going to take it out and wear a different shirt. Vasamsi gives an example, Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya, just as you discard a cloth that is soiled, when this body gets old and body becomes incapable of functioning, you discard this body just as easily as you would discard a cloth and wear a different one. Lord Krishna is saying, Tatha sarirani vihaya jirnan, the body that is getting disintegrated, you give it up. You come back with another body. That means what? Our life does not start with the birth of this body and does not end with the death of this body. Should I be afraid? Am I going to weep when I go home and we remove this shirt and say, oh my dear shirt, I am going to remove you, please, sorry, don't do that? No, I will not think twice. Same is what Lord Krishna is saying, reincarnation. So it's not just about him, it's about us too. He says, you are also going to be reborn, reincarnation. So we have to remember that, and that's fundamental to all the things that are going to follow. What does he say? Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mrutasya cha tasmad apariharyethe natvam sochitum arhasi. He's telling Arjuna. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu, meaning what? Anything that is born will have to die. Do we know it? Of course, we all know it. Anything that is born will die, will disintegrate. There is nothing great about that statement. What is great is what comes after. What is that comes after? Dhruvam janma mrutasya cha. Whatever has died will also come back to life. Dhruvam, for sure, he is saying, Dhruvam janma mrutasya cha. That which has died will have to be born. That is new. That is unique. You see, I don't know if you are as excited about it or not. To me, it's like it's a fantastic thing. Because I would never know that unless somebody tells me. Dhruvam janma mrutasya cha? I thought I will die as soon as this dies. And Krishna is assuring me, no, don't worry about it. You are going to come back. What an assurance. That means existence or passing of this body is not going to affect me the way I have been thinking about it. I thought I will be annihilated as soon as this body goes. No. He said, Dhruvam Janma Mritasya cha, you will be born. And at many places, actually I made several references throughout Bhagavad Gita at different places. Not necessary, I think, for me to quote all these slokas because that will take a lot of time. But the point is that you will come back. And Lord Krishna says at some point that, I know all the times that I have come back. You don't know. That's the only difference between you and me. Because I am God, Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, because I am God, I am aware of what's happening. But this body dies, that's not it. The mind also dies. We think we are the mind. No. What are we? Aham Atma, that he talks about. What are we? If I am not the body, then what are we? Well, this body goes, you are coming back. Okay, maybe then I am going to come back keeping all these mental attitudes. I am a man. I am Bhaskar. I know a lot of mathematics. I am very mean. Huh? I have some perception of myself. Please don't take that seriously. We have a description of ourselves. So I am thinking that when I come back, I am going to come back as all of that. No, that also dies. The mind also dies. Then what am I? He will talk about that. Those are the Vedantic theories. But we just need to know that there is this concept of reincarnation that is unique to our religion. So that gives me a huge relief. That, I am not going to be just limited to the existence only so long as my body is, I will exist even afterwards. Not only that, I am going to come back. So, I am a man in this life, so I am going to come back as a man. Doubtful. So how am I, these questions will come. Am I going to be only born all the time as a man? Next life also will I be a professor? I don't know. So these questions will come. Remember I was telling you, as I share these questions will come to your mind. How what? And I also said you can ask any question you want. No problem. Answers are available. You just need time and patience. Right? So reincarnation. I'll move on because it will go on. But then that will explain a whole lot of things. Once you accept reincarnation, a whole lot of things can be explained, which otherwise cannot be explained. Because we see in our lives, why is that person suffering so much? He's never harmed a single person in all his life. He's always very helpful. I keep saying he, it's equally true with she. She's such a nice person, I don't know why she's so. And here is an evil fellow. And no problems, he's got plenty of money. And how do you explain? How do you explain? When you understand that this existence in this body on this earth is not a one-time affair for us, then you can explain all these mysteries. We will come back. And Krishna says, you have also taken a lot of births before to Arjuna. And Arjuna is, each one of us is an Arjuna here, representative of the human being. So have I taken many births before? Yes, I have. Have you? Yes, you have. So that brings us to the next most important principle. What determines therefore what kind of a life we will have. What goes on in our lives when we take these births is dependent on karma. So the karma, principle of karma is third most important core principle of Hinduism. There is no mysterious thing that says I can commit whatever sins I want simply by asserting faith in an individual because he has suffered for humanity. All my sins are absolved and I am in direct path to heaven. Sorry, if you are a Hindu, not going to happen. Who bears the consequences of your actions? You. Karma theory is our principle, core principle. If you perform an action, you and you alone responsible for the consequences of that action. Doesn't matter whether you are a professor or whether you are the prime minister or president, doesn't matter who you are. Seems like such a depressing thing, right? Because then we'll start thinking about all the terrible things we have done in the past and then say, oh my God, how am I going to reap all these things? Fact is, whether we like or not, if I do something, I have to bear the consequences. Whatever therefore is going on currently in our life experiences is a consequence of my own past actions in the previous lives. But that seems like such a fatalistic attitude that I did something in the past and I have no choice but to go through these things. Is that what karma theory is? Well, no. Because if my past actions can govern my present, then my present action should dictate my future. Then if I am a smart person, what I should do? Better behave now properly at least. Correct? Because you can control your future. So do something appropriate, do something that is right. And what is right, what is wrong is, of course, according to the prescription of dharma. If you are a smart person, this is where smartness shows. If you are a smart person, yes, I know I am suffering. I know that this suffering, example, I am only talking about suffering, but it's true of enjoyment too. I would say, the kind of suffering that we can't help but go through is health issues, something that we have. They come. It's not like we ask, oh, let me become sick tomorrow. We don't ask, right? It happens. But enjoyments, you are able to make a salary, you have a house, you have a family. All these are the blessings of this life. But they are also consequences of our actions. So the good that happens is a consequence of our action. The bad that is happening is also a consequence of our actions. And because I can choose to perform actions, can I? These are some very common questions that come up. Do I have free will or not? Big debate we used to have for our son and nobody wins. Do I have free will or not? If I am governed by all the past karmas, do I have free will or not? Well, if I have no free will, then what's the point? We won't get into the debate. Remember, this is not a debate. I am just sharing my thoughts. But we can have a separate satsang on, is there a free will? We can have a satsang and talk about it. But karma theory will tell us that certain experiences that we go through in this life are consequences of our own actions. Now here comes when we will see amongst us or around us, but that person is suffering. Must have been a big sinner in the previous life. Look at me, what a saint I am. We will think nothing can be far from truth. I will share why. The karma that we are talking of, imagine, we are not here for the first time, so how many lifetimes did we come in the past? Numerous, countless number of times. He says, Lord Krishna says in this Bhagavad. Many times we have come. So all that accumulated karma, the huge body of karma is called Sanchita karma. I am going to talk for a couple of minutes about this theory of karma, right? This is very deep. But it's important to understand, otherwise, after this satsang is over, if somebody says, I have knee pain, you will say, it's your karma, what do you do? You better suffer. You must have hurt somebody. No, let us not make that mistake. We have a huge accumulated body of karmic baggage, which is called Sanchita karma. There are classifications in these things. We have abundant knowledge. Sanchita karma is the conglomeration of all the actions of all the past lives. How much is it? We don't know. Huge, for sure. Huge. We don't know. Because I don't know what my past lives are, what I did at that time. Huge is for sure. But just as when we go from, say, Melbourne, we are traveling for a couple of days to New York, you pack a suitcase of a few clothes and you go. You don't take your entire closet. Right? Whatever clothes are in your house, you don't carry the whole thing because you are going to New York. You just pick a couple of them, put in a suitcase and go. In the same manner, from that huge bag full of karma, we collect a little bit from here and there and then put it in our suitcase and come to this life. So whatever we are experiencing in this life is what we have gotten as a part of that thing to just experience in this lifetime. That is called prarabdha karma. So just because somebody is experiencing a certain difficulty in this lifetime and you are not experiencing, nobody should be thinking, oh, I am a saint and that fellow is a sinner. No. They have chosen to go through that part of their karmic baggage. You have somehow ended up getting these other parts and come for some time. Who knows what's in store tomorrow? We don't know. So nobody should be thinking that, oh, that person has a lot of health problems, so that person must be a sinner, I am not. No. Just that they have chosen to come with that and you have chosen to come with probably a different proportion, and again, who knows what's in store tomorrow. Today you are healthy, tomorrow we don't know. Correct? So nobody should make that kind of judgments. That's why we will never look down upon somebody who is poor. In our culture, in Hindu culture, somebody is poor, somebody is rich, both can be great friends, and they live, the poor fellow lives poor life, rich fellow lives rich life, they are best friends. They'll meet maybe for coffee or tea and then they'll go away, this fellow is poor, that fellow is rich. Nobody will think less of the poor person because they know what's going on intrinsically. Oh, this is a choice we have made for whatever reason we have come with this. So sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, and the most important thing, it is the reason why this is not a fatalistic attitude is because you have a right to fix it by you can dictate your future lives, not necessarily only next life. Even what happens in this life can also be dictated to an extent. That we'll get into that some other day. That is called agami karma. What can you do today to make a future life better? That is the whole quick thing about the karma. Therefore, karma principle plays and we believe in it. And therefore, no Hindu can willfully ever harm another being. I am going to teach this fellow a lesson, and I am going to teach him such a lesson that he will never forget in his life. Hindu cannot say that. Because if you do that, you are collecting more for future. No, we don't do that. That's why we are different. Am I making sense? Right? So the karma principle is part and core principle of Hinduism, which is what then Lord Krishna talks about, and the most famous shloka that he says, probably everybody knows, karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhohu mate sangostva karmani. So Lord Krishna is exhorting Arjuna, is telling about all these things. He talks about huge discourse. There is a whole chapter on karma yoga. He talks about all types of karma, sukarma, vikarma, all kinds of things he talks about. Then he says, karmanyevadhikaraste, you have a right to perform action. Ma phaleshu kadachana, do not keep any authority over the results of your karma. Big problem. How can you do something without expecting a result? You will have this kind of discussion with your children will ask. We need to ask ourselves also. We have a good understanding of what this is. Right? How can it be? I am working hard. How can I be working hard without expecting a return? I am working hard because I want a return of certain type that I am seeking. What do you mean by saying karmanyevadhikaraste ma phalesu kadachana? Does it concern us? Is this philosophy or life? So Bhagavad Gita is an intrinsic part of our life. It tells us how to live our lives. So he says, yes, you have a right to perform action. The phalas are not necessarily going to be realized in the time frame that you think you will realize. They will come, no doubt. He's saying there is no result. He's not saying there is no result. He's only saying you don't be too focused on that. You do your part well. Yogaha karmasu kausalam, he says. Performing action skillfully is yoga. So you are doing research, do it skillfully. You are teaching, do it skillfully. You are writing code, okay, do it skillfully. That is yoga, he says. So perform, but don't think, because this, what happens in this lifetime is governed by what may have been performed in the past. So there are people who work very hard and they don't get their promotion. There are people who don't work as hard and they get promoted to whatever. We see this all the time. So should we be therefore crushed by these life experiences, or should we say, well, I understand, I tried my best, I understand what's going on, but I'm going to give my best, which is what Lord Krishna exhorts Arjuna to do. Karma principle. So do your best. Don't say, oh, because I tried but it didn't come, so from tomorrow onwards I'm not going to work hard. That's the lesson. Right? No. You keep on, so he says, karmanyeva adhikaraste, you have to keep on doing work. So he tells about the nature of karma. So reincarnation, karma theory, he talks about that in numerous ways. And he describes the nature of karma too. Niyatam kuru karmatvam, he says, karmajyayo hyakarma. Do not refrain from performing action. Because, oh, there's everything that's going to happen according to my past karma, so I'm not going to do anything, I will not study it. If it is destined for me, I will pass. No student should be saying. Nobody should be saying. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Perform your action as you are expected to. So, principle of karma, therefore, he talks about that. And then, okay, sir, I am coming back several times, numerous births. I keep performing actions, I keep clearing some burn, some of prarabdha, some, and then next come back, then take some more, come burn some more. But I also have to leave, so I'll collect some more karma. Where is this going to end? And for what? That question will come to us. So, the answer is, there is a ultimate goal. Because you see, in India, it used to be there in earlier days. Nowadays, I don't think it is there. They will extract oil by doing, they will tie the bull and they will put the thing and that bull will go around like this. They will be dragging that roller coaster type of thing and it will crush the seeds, sugar cane or maybe something like that. So it will extract the juice, right? So the job of that bull is tied to a rope. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then the bull will keep on going all, there is no other work other than that bull is going all and around. As it walks around, that thing will crush the seeds and oil will be extracted. Right? So, a whole day it will go and at the end of it, the boss will release it from the rope and say, okay, tonight you rest. Next day morning, again it will go around. That's its job. Are we like that? That we are born, we go through all these sufferings and good things and bad things and then die and then come back and then again go through. Where is the end to this? Is there a goal to this whole process? What's going to happen eventually? So that is something that Lord Krishna talks about in Bhagavad Gita, saying that here is the goal and the purpose for human life. What does he say? He says, having done all these actions, it is possible to release oneself from this cycle of birth and death. It is possible to release oneself from this cycle of birth and death. So that is the goal. Ultimate goal of a human life. What is the purpose of any human life? Is to release oneself from the cycle of birth and death. How you do that? When you keep on living, you keep on accumulating and it's never going to end. How is that? So then he says there are certain type of karmas that you can perform which do not add to your baggage. Certain type of actions if you perform, they do not add to your baggage. So perform those type of actions and slowly you will keep burning off these things and you'll be living, but you'll be doing things, but they don't cause you further baggage. So Lord Krishna gives a prescription of that how to live our human life, such a way that it does not necessarily result in further bondage of karma. So he says, Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karma kru. There is nobody in this universe who can say, I don't want to perform any karma. Even if you are all just seemingly sitting here doing nothing, your body is doing a whole lot of things. It's beating, blood is flowing. So karma is inevitable. You have to perform. But then he says, there are certain ways. How? Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasasmaran indriyarthan vimudhatma midhyachara savujyate. Controlling, and then he says, yes indriyani manasa niyamya arabhyate arjuna karmendriyehi karma yoga sasaktaha sadisishyate. So he says, controlling one's sense organs with the mind. He who commences the yoga of action with the organs of action unattached is held to excel. So you are supposed to perform these actions without getting caught in that doership. Doership is what he says. I am the one who did it. Oh, you know, 15 years ago when I was a big guy, I used to make tons of money and I had so many people who would just do my bidding. You have no idea what a great person I am. We'll keep hearing these kind of stories. Right? No. If one can have that understanding that all these things that you have done are not entirely you as in the little ego that you think you are, then being unattached to that kind of a thing, not having the doership attitude, then you are able to slowly release from there. So the whole spirituality and the Hindu religion, why all these many do's and don't, do Ekadasi Vatams and do this, do that, is all towards that goal of releasing oneself from this karmic cycle. That's why. But you see, this is a religion which propagates a lot of balancing. So it talks about, it has a complete, don't think that just because we are talking about Bhagavad Gita, everybody is asked to become a monk. Far from it. In Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism, there are varnashrama dharmas. Ashramas, stages of life. Ashrama dharmas. So there is a childhood, brahmacharya. Then grihastha, get married, have children, enjoy life. Then at some stage, learn to say, I have had enough, I am fine, it's little. There was a time when I had a 10-bedroom house. I think all children have gone away. I think 2 bedrooms is good enough for me and my wife. Vanaprastha, reduce stage, 3rd stage. 4th stage, which is not necessary for all people, all Hindus, is sannyasa, renunciation. So there are 4 stages for life. So there is a provision for an individual to enjoy life. It is never that everybody should become a monk. How many Hindus are all monks? No. We are not required to. When you are a grihastha, live a life of a grihastha. Have married life, have children, enjoy comforts, do all these things. But then at some point in life, learn to say, I think I have had it, I am fine. I don't need these things anymore. That type. So then he says, while you are doing all this, so ashrama dharmas are there. In this stage of life, do this. So for a small child, we should not say, oh, you should fast on Ekadasi. You know, fasting on Ekadasi is one of the best things you can do. So to my 5-year-old child, I should not say, I am fasting, so you should also fast. No. You are a grihastha, you are required to do it. Grihastha is supposed to follow certain disciplines, not a 5-year-old child brahmachari. So this perspective is very important. What we are telling our children is very important. Right? So to a child, what is the most enjoyable thing? Play. So you should say, go play. Have fun. Study. That's it. Then when married, okay, follow grihastha dharmas. Then when vanaprastha, follow that dharma. So there are stipulations. In whatever stage this is, he says, Yajnavashishtinas santo muchyante sarvakil vishaihi bhunjate te tvagam papa ye pachantyatma karana. So, important thing he says, how to live. When we enjoy life, how to enjoy life? What is the attitude to enjoy life? Oh, I made money, I worked hard. I am not answerable to anybody. How I live my life, I can drink, do whatever I want. My money, right? Who are you to tell me what I should do? Is what we hear sometimes. No. How are we supposed to live? If you want to live in a way that it doesn't add to your baggage. Yajnavasishtinas santo muchyante sarvakil vishahi. You will be released of whatever consequences if you live it as a prasada of God. You understand that? Prasada as a grace of God. So you have a good house. Your attitude, God's grace, I have a good house. You have a good wife who listens to you, or who is, I don't mean that in a dominating manner, in a way that there is a cordial relationship. There are many who don't, right? So if you have a family life where your wife and you are in good relationship, if you have a family life where your children are very nice to you and they listen to you and they understand what you are saying, where you are coming from, and you are able to say, no, it's God's grace that I have such children. It's God's grace that my spouse is like this. It's God's grace that I have a few friends who really wish well for me. It's God's grace that we are able to have a satsang like this. When everything that happens, you start seeing it as a grace of God, then there is no such thing as, oh, I am the one who did all this. Arrogance is not there. When you are not taking that ownership, then there is no bondage. So he gives us, I'm just quickly saying it all, but there is nuances to these things. So Lord Krishna says, this is how you are supposed to live. And the fourth principle, therefore, is there is a way out of this cycle of life and death, and that is the purpose of human life. So for a Hindu, the fourth principle is that there is a possibility of liberation, concept of liberation, moksha. I'm pretty sure everybody has heard this word. Moksha is liberation, is possible for everyone without exception. So a lot of things that we go through in our life, the conflicts we come across, they all can be resolved if we understand these things as to what's going on, what am I going to do, why am I going to do. All these things can be resolved. So no Hindu, true Hindu who understands these things can ever look down upon somebody. We have been repeatedly told that our religion is riddled with flaws, faults. Saying that, oh, you women are looked down upon. How it is possible? If I am saying, Lord Krishna is saying that I am the one who is present in all beings, can women be looked down? Oh, in your society you have caste system and you look, these people are superior, those people are inferior. How it is possible? Anybody who has even read one shloka of Bhagavad Gita cannot say that. It is not part of our religion at all. There is classification, but there is no ranking. The two are different things. Right? There is no ranking. Nowhere in this Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, only Brahmins are allowed to realize me and become one with God. Brahmins are my favorite people. No. So, I am taking a name, just an example, because that's a popular perception that somehow these are superior, these are inferior. No. Nowhere is this said. So we are brainwashed into thinking that, oh, there is this terrible thing called caste system. Oh, this society is male chauvinistic society. Oh, this is. We are made to feel guilty about these things. Whereas that's not the truth. Right? So he says, all are eligible for this. So he says, what type of people are okay to get this release from the bondage of life and death? 4 types of people come to me, he says. 4 types of people come to me, to God. Arti, Jignasuraartharti, Gnani cha Bhartashabha, he says. Those who are in distress will seek God. Those who want some benefits, say, we want to make some money, or we want to get some promotion, or we want to success in life, they will pray to God. Jignasu, somebody wants to understand what this whole life is all about, then they will also seek grace of God. Gnanicha, somebody who really understands all these things already, also will seek God. Because that's the only thing that is to be sought. So this is what he says. These 4 types of people can come. And in fact, in some places in Bhagavad Gita, he says anybody is fine or eligible to get this. So there is no ranking, there is no prohibition. Oh, you are this, so you cannot be, Now, in fact, some places he says there is nobody who is favorite to me. Things like that. Name dveshosti na priyaha. Neither do I hate somebody, nor do somebody close to me. All are equal to me. In fact, so it goes on. So the 4th principle 1, I will summarize. Principle 1, there is one all-permeating Godhead that is called Parabrahman, call it by whatever name, there is only one God. That one God can manifest in numerous forms and names, so there are avatars and you can worship any one of the forms. He says those things. Right? You can worship me in any form. Doesn't matter. You can come to me. That's what he says. I made all these lists, but I don't need to go through all of this. Right? So that's the 3rd. Then the 2nd, reincarnation. Or worship any form, doesn't matter. Number 2, reincarnation. So you're not here for one time alone. So you're going to come back again and again. Which means you'll be mindful of how you live your current life. So your future life will be better off. Right? Somebody can be born in a high caste today. Tomorrow that person can be born in the lowest caste. So how can one caste look down upon the other? It's today's thing. Tomorrow it can be different. Today you are human, tomorrow one can be born as a dog. Listen to the Puranic stories, you will see some sage cursed and said, oh, you fellow, you did this. Next life be born as a dog. Does life go back in evolution? This theory of evolution is a recent thing. But our Puranas say you can be human today, but you can very well become an animal tomorrow. If you behave like an animal today, they will say, okay, you had a great fortune to be a human, but you didn't conduct yourself accordingly. You probably deserve to be in the dog's body, go live it. So you understand what it is. So it can go back. That's possible. Right? So we have to be mindful. So reincarnation. And reincarnation is governed by theory of karma. We talked about it. And it's not that you are forever stuck in this cycle. It is possible for you to get out of this cycle and be free of this bondage. How is it possible? Well, there are numerous paths he talks about in different chapters. He talks about dhyana yoga. You can perform dhyana, meditation in a certain way to come out of this cycle. He says bhakti yoga, you can be a devotee and get out of this cycle. Because he says, ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah parvipasate. That's a classic example of why there is no discrimination in this religion. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah parvipasate. Whosoever worships me. He didn't say only those Brahmins who worship me. Ye janah, whoever worships me. Aham. He says, ye jana paripasya tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam bhaya. I will take care of them. Ye jana. What is the prerequisite? Ananyas chintayanto mam is the prerequisite. If you are able to worship me with one-pointed, single-pointed devotion, whoever you are, I will take care of you. That's the promise Lord Krishna is making. Okay? So it is possible for us to how to live, and that is where all these theories come. Do I take a path of devotion? Do I take the path of dhyana? Do I take the path of jnana? That depends on each one, and it gives a lot of knowledge in this. It says, why do all this happen? Why are variations between one person's behavior to other person's behavior? Same situation, people react differently, respond differently. Why does it happen? There are theories. We just need the time and the patience to talk about it. Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, he talks about that. There are 3 types of gunas, qualities. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So he talks about what are sattvic qualities, what are rajasic qualities, what are tamasic qualities. And everything in this creation is classified into those 3. It's classification, mind you, not ranking. So everything in this creation is classified into 3 things. Everybody knows, Tridalam, Trigunakaram, Trinetram, Triyayudam, Trijanmapapa, all those klotras, 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Everything can be classified into those. So he says, cultivate sattvic qualities if you want to get out of this bondage. So we need to know what are the sattvic qualities to cultivate. We need another satsang for that, if you want to answer. So bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga, and then gunatraya vibhaga. Understand all these subtleties if you care. You say, no sir, don't bother me with all this too much philosophy, I am already sleepy and I am tired. Then he says, okay, you don't want any of this, that's also fine. That is also fine, he says. Then what? Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masucha. He says, oh, you are tired of all this thing? Fine. Just take refuge in me. Surrender to me. It's easier said than done. This shloka is the most misunderstood shloka. Sarva dharman parityajya. Give up all practices of all dharma. He says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam vrajakam. Seek refuge only in me. Really? Krishna is telling you to give up all dharmas and take refuge in him so that he will save you from all the things. It's similar to what somebody else is also telling, right? Just believe in me, come on Sundays and then. So, this is the misunderstood thing. You can give up something that you already have. If I never smoked in my life, can I say I gave up smoking? Can I say I gave up smoking? I never smoked in my life, but I say, oh, Vikram, I gave up smoking. But I never smoked. So how can I give up all dharmas if I never practiced any dharma? So sarva dharma parityajya doesn't apply to someone like me who never practiced any dharma to begin with. I can give up provided I practiced. You see? So it's not easy to understand this terminology and the language, the way the Lord Krishna speaks. But he says this, having pure, simply devoted to God also is enough. So there is somebody who likes to do yoga, meditation, that's fine, they can do that. There is no ranking is what is very, very important, because we are very quick to judge. We are very quick to compare. Oh, that to answer, you don't need to sit and do all this meditation and all these things. Just chant the name of God. Good enough. Somebody is sitting and chanting the name of God, poor fellow. And then you go to that person and say, what do you think you get by simply saying Ram, 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 Ram? Nothing will happen. You need to do some meditation. And the fellow will give up that chanting and he will go to meditation. You are doing meditation, somebody will come and say, without yoga exercise, sir, nothing will happen. Then you give up that and no, there is no ranking. Any one thing you hold on to it alone has the power to lead us to that ultimate goal. But you have to hold on to something is important. So he talks about japa yajna. He talks about yajnas. So remember I said yajna vasishto. But if you have a life, lead a life where you have that attitude of receiving everything that's happening in our lives as God's gift, then things will change. And it's hard, easier said than done, but something that needs practice. So these are the four core principles of Hinduism. I'll repeat. There is God, whether you like or not, whether you believe or not. There is one entity. Whatever name, whatever form is okay. Reincarnation, karma theory. There is an opportunity for us to get out of that karma theory. Right? And then there are variations in the huge body of literature that expounds, explains, clarifies. That's why we are so rich. Because I have 18 Puranas which will tell me what will happen if I try to steal somebody's property that is not mine. You have a whole Mahabharata. You have a whole Ramayana. What if I covet somebody else's? What will happen? There's a whole Ramayana. And like that, Bhagavad, a whole lot of things. You are interested? Well, we can have satsangs and talk. Right? So he says, and then, finally, he says, in the 18th chapter, he says, Idam te, so he says, look at this, non-discriminatory thing. Idam te, na tapaskaya, na bhaktaya, kadachana, na cha susrushave vachyam, na cha mam yobhya suyati. So he says, this knowledge that is embodied in Bhagavad Gita should not be given to certain people who is not, the list does not include, oh, don't give it to women. No, that is not what is said. Don't give it to those who are not Brahmins or those who give it to who are Shudras. No, nothing like that. Who should it not be told? This should not be given to those people, those who are na tapaskaya, those who do not have any tapas, meaning any austerity in their life. Don't give it to somebody who is not a bhakta. Some understand, there has to be a notion of some Godhead, whoever, whichever form. Somebody is not a bhakta, don't. Why? Because they will start picking holes in these arguments and they will not believe in it, they will distort it, they will do all this, destroy the faith of somebody. Then he says, Nacha Sushrushabe. So there is this, in our religion, there is this lineage of gurus. Guru leka etuvanti guniki saukyam ledu. There is nobody who can say, I don't need a guru. Everybody needs a guru. Even Lord Krishna had a guru who is an avatar himself had a guru, Sandipani. So nobody should say, I am a very smart person, sir, I don't need a guru. Wrong. Right? You need a guru in these matters. Why? Because when something is wrong with our bodies, with my own body, something is wrong, I cannot decide for myself what is wrong. What do? I go to a doctor. The doctor who is an expert who spent a whole life studying all these things has to tell me what is wrong with my body. If I can't know what's wrong with my body, could I diagnose what is wrong probably with my mind? So I need a psychiatrist. If I am depressed or I am something and suffering with mentally, then I need a psychiatrist. I need help. How much more do I need somebody to tell me what's wrong if my soul is suffering? I need a guru who can see, who knows this mechanism of how the souls evolve through lifetimes. The principles, I have an idea of these things, then I need a guru for that. So he says somebody who has that attitude to learn from somebody, to them you can. There is no other prescription. He doesn't even say give it only to Hindus. No. And then he says, and this is my fifth principle. And the last one. Iti te jnanamakyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrushyetat aseshena yathetchasi tathaku. Not popularly known, probably. I'll read it again. Iti te jnanamakyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrushyetat aseshena yathetchasi tathaku. So after he speaks for all this long about Atma, what are the qualities of Atma, how to realize this Atma, how to become one with God, what paths you should take, should you be taking Karma Yoga, all that he says, and then he says, Iti te jnanam akyatam, and that is the core principle, one of the core principles. Whatever things I have shared is jnanam, is what? Knowledge. So he is not telling that it's a matter of faith. Knowledge is what? That which can be acquired, which can be understood, which can be verified, which can be tested. So he is telling all these things that I am telling you is knowledge. Itite jnanam akyatam guhyat guhyataram parisam. One of the most secretive knowledges. Why is it secret, sir? It is published in a book and we are all talking about it. It is secret because that's a terminology thing, right? It's a secret because it is not easily understood. is not in our daily experience. So it appears like a secret. You need somebody who will unravel the secrets for you, like Lord Krishna. So this is what? Knowledge, he says. That's not the principle. Vimrushyetat aseshana. Vimrushyetat aseshana. What does it mean? He says, analyze it, debate it, discuss it thoroughly. Not saying, I am Lord Krishna, I am telling you this. Either you follow, or if you don't follow, you know what will happen? You will go to hell. No. Vibrushyatat aseshana. Endlessly. He says, aseshana. Without any, aseshana means nothing is left. You debate and discuss it thoroughly. Vimrushyatat. Question it. Debate it. Discuss it. And then, having been convinced of it, follow. Vimrush, which religion tells us that? Question whatever. Can you question Bible? Can you question some other religions? Text? No. The moment you say anything, you're done. Here Lord Krishna, after explaining all these things, says, Vimrushyatat aseshana. You want to debate? Sure. You want to question? Please. Aseshana, without any end. Discuss it. Principle. Last words. After doing all that, Yathechasi tatha. Whatever you want, you do. That, in my opinion, is core principle of Hinduism. After discussing all these fundamental truths, writing all these many things, he says, you heard me tell you all these things. Yathechasi tatha. Whatever you want, you do. I told you what is the truth. I told you what is the knowledge. I told you what is the right thing. Whatever you want, you do. No other religion will say this. Right? Every other religion will say, you better follow this, or else I don't need to finish. Only in Hinduism, Lord Krishna says, after giving a look, this is page 614. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, after giving a whole discourse, he says, I told you, Lord, my friend, whatever is the truth, I told you, the jnana part. I gave you the knowledge. This is the right thing to do. This is not the way to do. That is how to do. If you do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, it will happen. At the end of it all, yathechasi tatha. Whatever you want, you do. So who has the freedom to choose? We. You and I. Which religion tells you? Be proud. Tell somebody that my religion is the most democratic religion. It tells me everything that is to be done, not done, or whatever. And then ultimately gives me the freedom to do whatever I want. So should you be going to temple every day? If you want to go. Should you be reading Bhagavad Gita every day? Well, if you want, you read. Should you believe in God? Well, if you want to believe. Look at that. If you want to believe, don't believe, that's okay. You will come back. Isn't it fantastic? That's the religion we are part of. Right? The core principles. I'll say it once and then we'll close. There is God, whether we like or not. That God can take many forms. There is reincarnation. We ourselves come back many times. And when we come back, that is dictated by these karmic principles. And there is a way out of these karmic principles, and the sole purpose of human life on earth is to try to get out of that karmic cycle. You say, no, I'm not interested. That's fine. Yathechasi tatha kuru. Whatever you want, you do. No problem. That freedom is there only in Hinduism. These are the core principles. I hope I did not oversimplify this. Right? There are many things, and then if you accept this, then we can build a whole lot of framework and mechanisms. And all of that is the detail, but these are the core principles. I hope we gain some understanding as to who we are, and we can share it to our children. That's more important, so that they are not confused and they are not lured by other people who will say, oh, come to us. Our religion is very simple, it's very complicated for you. Come to us. We have only one God. You have many. Who will you worship? Monday is something, and Monday is Shiva, and Tuesday is Hanuman, and Wednesday is somebody, Thursday is Sai Baba. No. Same God every day. Easy. There will be others who will tell us of our children. Let us not be falling into that kind of trap. So we have a responsibility at least to have some idea of who we are, so we can transfer it to our next generation. So we are extremely grateful for this body of knowledge that is our inheritance. Right? Practice as you want to fast on Ekadasi, do it. You don't want, that's okay. You want to worship big, perform Satyanarayana 5 days, 5 hours, do it. Choice. Right? So let us be grateful that we are part of this. And what happens is that we have numerous gurus who have come all through the timeline who transferred all these things and made it easier for us to follow. So there is one great saint of the modern times as a part of Shankara Matham, Kanchi Shankaracharya's lineage, Sri 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 Chandrasekhara Saraswati Swami is called as Mahaswami. Great personality and a great sannyasi. Some of them revere him as incarnation of God himself. Okay? If you ever have a chance to go to Kanchipuram, please visit Shankara Matham. He's no, of course, Mahaswami is not there, but there is a statue of Mahaswami. Those who have been there can recollect probably. It's as if he's actually sitting there. Right? I think he passed away sometime in the 1990s, sometime in the 90s, 91. At the ripe age of nearly 100 years, he passed away. But he composed a song which summarizes the attitude of a Hindu. Right? And that's a song that our sister Vasumati must have shared with all of you. And that song was sung by M.S. Subbalakshmi in the United Nations General Assembly. She sang that song because when she was invited and she was asked to sing a song there, she went to him and Mahaswami told her, okay, sing this. And she sang. I think you also shared the translation lyrics and the translation. Okay. But you can look at the translation on your own and then you will see why that song resonates with the message of Bhagavad Gita and all the core principles that we have taught. A Hindu cannot harbor hatred towards any being in this universe. It's not possible. Should not be. It's possible that an individual here and there may have. That's a different thing. Right? There are certain words that Lord Krishna repeats throughout this book. Some of them, one of them I will say. Sarva bhuta hite rataha, he says. A Hindu must be Sarva bhuta hite rataha. The Hindu should be invested in the welfare of all beings. Sarva, you understand the word, sir? Bhuta means all beings. Hite means welfare. Rataha, be invested in it, not casual. I am invested in your welfare because I am born in you. I want to wish you well. I can only wish you well. I cannot think anything else if I am true. So this song that we are going to sing all of us together probably is about that. Maitrim bhajata. Cultivate that attitude of friendliness towards one and all. Spardham tejata. You will see. Okay? So with this I will conclude. I am very grateful for this opportunity to share some of these thoughts. I am very sure there is nothing new that I have shared with you. You all know these things, but you gave me an opportunity to clarify my thoughts in an effort to share this with you. So I am very grateful, especially to Brother Vasu who keeps asking me, what are you going to talk next? And that gives me an opportunity to think about these things and share. Very grateful, and I am very grateful to their family for making this venue available. It's a nice venue where we can gather and happily talk about for a couple of hours on some very important things that matter to us. So I'm thankful, and I will conclude with an invocation and then we will go to that. Swasti prajabhya paripalayantam nyayena margena mahishaha go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam lokas samastas sukhino bhavantu. That is the ultimate goal of a Hindu. Lokas samastas sukhino bhavantu. Everybody be happy. That's how we will say. We don't say only Hindus be happy. Lokas samastas sukhino bhavantu. काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतं हरिः ओं तत्सत्
मैत्रीं भजत अखिलहृजेत्रीं मैत्रीं भजत अखिलहृजेत्रीम् आत्मवदेव परानपि पश्यत आत्मवदेव परानपि पश्यत युद्धं त्यजत स्पर्धां त्यजत युद्धं त्यजत स्पर्धां त्यजत त्यजत परेषु क्रममाक्रमणं त्यजत परेषु क्रममाक्रमणं मैत्रीं भजत अखिलहृजेत्रीं जननीं पृथिवीं कामदुःखार्ते जननीं पृथिवीं कामदुःखार्ते जनको देवः सकलदयालुः जनको देवः सकलदयालुः धाम्य ददतं दयत्वं जनता धाम्य ददतं दयत्वं जनता श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां. Just wanted to take a minute to thank Dr. Jnanabhaskar Tenali. Every time we have a program, I always say how fortunate we are to have someone so close to us, so knowledgeable and so willing to share anytime and every time. Someone once, way back when, asked me, what is he going to talk about? I said, don't worry, just give the mic and he will talk. Any subject, anytime, anywhere. And we sincerely appreciate you coming and talking to us. Like you said, it gives us also an opportunity. We get excited. As a matter of fact, last class, my students asked me to teach them Maitreem Bhajata. So which I did. That's why I asked Asami also to join in. And we sincerely appreciate and we look forward to our next session. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Give us like 5-10 minutes, we'll set up lunch, and please don't leave without eating lunch. Thank you.